Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. How are you? I hope you are having a really good week. Really good week. For those who are new and just joining the channel, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm here every day, every weekday at 1 p.m. I'm going to just check my sound as I like to do. Those who are regular here know I like to do just to make sure that it's coming through really clearly, that you can hear me. Let's see, it's doing the
Regular
thing.
here, no, I like to do just to make
Okay,
sure.
great. It's that was loud. Right. So we're here every day at 1 p.m. and I'm helping you to get through this crisis, this pandemic, this lockdown. If you're not in the UK, we're in lockdown again. And for Wales, it was supposed to be 2 weeks. But there's still things that are not non-essential that are not we're not allowed to buy in the shops. So there's certain places that you go in the supermarket. I don't know if it's changed today, but so I think this is our fourth week of that's happening, and I know England's in lockdown as well until 2nd of December. For now, we don't know how long it will continue. So everything has changed for us, and we're living this year a year that we've never lived before, and we want to get through it in the best way we possibly can, just to make sure that we're okay physically, mentally, and spiritually. So on this channel, I help you mostly with the mental, but we're also going to combine some other things and make it more holistic, make you give you more tools with which to cope, because we know that getting through things like this is not just a psychological process, it's a holistic process, and we want to be able to help you holistically. So saying that, our topic today, I'm talking about if you can free yourselves if you change the story around your emotions. Welcome. I'm not sure who's here, but welcome. Really, really glad to have you. So it's to if you master your thoughts, you can control your life. Our thoughts rule. Oh, my headset fell out then. Our thoughts rule and manage us. So if we can control that, we can control our life. It really does help you. It sets the stage for how you make decisions. It sets the stage for when you make decisions. It sets the stage for how you view life, how you see opportunities, how you manage mistakes, how you manage people around you, whether or not you feel comfortable setting boundaries, or how you respond to other people's boundaries. It really does make the difference between how you respond to life and how you don't. So lots of times it starts there, and being able to manage the story that we'll tell ourselves around it is really important. So what are some of the things that influences the story that we tell ourselves? I want to talk about that for a little bit, not going too deeply into it, but just kind of touch the surface of it for today, because we can't go deeply into this. Each one of these topics that I talk about, we could do a whole workshop, a whole week of workshops on just one of these, just going deeper and taking you deeper into it. And those are some of the things that I do in my healing school, where we have more time and we can go deeper into topics. So if you want to learn more about that, just send me an email. My contact details is usually at the end of the videos. So how do we manage the story that we tell ourselves? And what's one of the crucial things that impacts our story, the story that we tell ourselves? It's almost the foundation, it's the influencer, it's the thing that write the story for us, if you will. And it's our past. The early childhood experiences, for sure, is one of the things that greatly influences our story, the story we tell ourselves. So let's look at this story, for example, that you're growing up now, and I know that there are different age groups on this channel, but just imagine with me that you're growing up now, for those who aren't, and you are an entrepreneur. You've decided to do some amazing things, but there is this fear that you're not good enough to do that. There's this fear that so there's a story you tell yourself around worth and worthiness, because you don't feel worthy, you don't feel like you're worth it, you don't feel like you can do something like that. Thank you for coming on. You don't feel like you can do something like that, then it stops you from moving forward. Mindset is really, really important in how we approach life and how we approach decision making, how we take opportunities or not take opportunities, and how we move through stuck places in our lives. Mindset is, it helps us even know that we're stuck so that we can move. So that's a really crucial thing to be aware of. So the story is influenced by our past, how we grew up, the families that we grew up in, the side of the road that we live on, the side of the community where we live, the part of town that was our address. Because there's so many things bombarding us that there's certain places that certain parts of the city. I remember reading an article when I lived in Leeds around different zones in the city. And different zones in the city determine life expectancy and health outcomes for people in those different types of zones. And of course, as you can imagine, the zones where there were more people on benefits, where there was more social inequalities, where there was not high unemployment, those zones would be the outcomes for health in those zones would be um, more statistically higher than the people in zones where there was more employment, where they had blue collar jobs and things like that. So as you can imagine, for the people in the zones where health outcomes was poor, there would be sometimes less resources in certain area, less opportunities available, certain types of jobs. Their address would determine sometimes the kind of jobs that they have. So the neighbors, the way the neighbors respond, all of those kind of things would have an effect on the child growing up. And we don't think about these things, but we're just there and we're absorbing it and it's having an effect. So I remember when I just moved to Leeds from Jamaica, and I lived where with my grandfather, and we were taking a taxi. We wanted to take a taxi home, and I remember a friend told me, who didn't live in the part of the town that I lived, say to me, taxis don't go there at certain times. I was shocked. I was just like, how? So there was a perception about people who live there, and maybe experiences of taxi drivers, I don't know. But when you have those things, that's a lot of stuff for people to carry and to deal with. So people would formulate a story about self around those words are failing me today, around those incidents, around those statistics, around, statistics as published in newspapers that everybody can read. And so people would tell themselves stories. Sometimes people would treat you based on the story they have about where you're from. And because of how they treat you based on the story that they have about where you're from, then you tell yourself a story about their story. Not that you know all of it, but based on the way they treat you. So based on the way sometimes they treat you at school, they'll tell you certain things. Sometimes you'll be told that you're not good enough and you can't do this thing. You'll be told that. And you'll be told this is, you'll be confined to a certain way, and all of that kind of stuff. So when we tell ourselves, these are the stories that we need to challenge. And sometimes, because they're not on the surface and we're not ruminating on them every day, we don't know that they're creating an impact in our lives and holding us back. And we don't know that they're having an effect on our decision making, and they're really hampering our growth and hampering progress. The stories are in the subconscious. Events that have an emotional connection get stored in the brain. It's in the subconscious. And so it's impacting our lives. It's kind of running beneath the surface. If you have a mobile phone, and this always amazes me, my mobile phone. So I will delete certain things from my gallery, and I think, okay, phew, I'm freeing up space on my phone. But then I'm still having warning signs that I'm using up my space. But I thought I delete stuff from my gallery. Where is it then? Then giving it to my husband, who understands technology a little bit better, well, a lot better than me, we would find things in all over the places. So the one image or video that I thought I delete was in several other places on the phone. And you need to go in those several other places to delete it to really free up space on the phone. So if I deleted it just from where I can see it on the gallery, doesn't mean anything. It's still there in probably about 4 or 5 other places. So that's one example of how these experiences are there and the story sits there in the background, disrupting your life, influencing your thoughts and how you think about yourself and how you approach opportunities or whether or not you take them up and cause havoc. Also, the using the mobile phone analogy again, when you might think you have a full battery and you are you think you're okay, and then your battery just starts running out and you're wondering what happened. There were apps running in the background using up your battery life and you didn't know it was doing that. These are some of the ways that our story, it's like the apps running in the background using up our battery life. It's influencing our thoughts and causing havoc. So how do you change a mindset that you know needs changing, but you have been living this story for so long that you can't seem to free yourself? I think that's a really good question. And sometimes we can do it on our own through self-study courses, through reading books, through yeah, just spending time and being intentional. The awareness that my story needs challenging is the first most important step. So when you're aware that you have a mindset that needs changing, but you're living it so long and you don't know how to change, I think that's the first important step, because I have this mindset. What do I do? So if you're asking yourself questions about, okay, so how do I change this mindset? And I think, Roxanne, I think it's that question that people ask that send them searching, that will send them searching. That's when people go to Google and type in, how do I change my mindset? And they will get books or courses or blogs or anything that they can read that will get help to change mindset. So if you're struggling with a particular mindset, a particular story, and it's holding you back, and you're realizing that it's holding you back, and you're not sure how to change that mindset, that's why we have our healing school. Our healing school have loads and loads of resources, self-study resources that you can use to begin to address and to tackle the mindset. There's a whole section in the healing school on mindset alone. So I'm going to put the link to the healing school because it's really important that you begin to tackle it if you know and notice that there's something that needs changing. So it's a really, really good question. Also, there are loads of books, none I can think of now to recommend, but if you go again, if you type that in Google or even just in Amazon, you'll get lots of book recommendations that come up that will kind of help you to manage that. But until you challenge that story and begin to change it, tell yourself the truth about the story, then it will continue to disrupt your life. Change the story. How do you change some of the stories? How do you tell yourself the truth? Challenge it. Let me give you an example. So you come from a certain part of town and life expectancy, health outcomes for that part is not the greatest. Your GP, the resources are limited and all that. So you see yourself in a certain position and you want to apply for that position. You want to do study further, you want to change, you want to move, you want to break the ceiling, you want to move out of the stuck place that you've been in because of the story. One of the things to do is journaling. I really do love journaling and I recommend it because it's really good to help people be unstuck and move. And you might think, I don't like writing, so I don't like journaling. It's not writing per se. It's not like writing like I'm going to sit and I'm going to write reams and reams. You're just asking yourself questions and answering the questions. And one of the things that's good about it is if you're stuck on a particular question, then you can go searching for the answer for that question. But you can't go searching for answers that you don't know you have. The question don't can't go searching for answers that you don't know the question to. This is the process that helps you learn that. So you can sit with your pen now and think, what's my story? You can do it in different ways. I wish I'd drawn before, but sometimes it's in the middle of presenting that I'll remember that I could do something practical. So draw a circle, put yourself in the middle, and I'm going to I'm going to treat this like a workshop. Is that all right? Let's do that. I'm going to use my orange pen and I'm going to use my pink. Is it pink or is it purple? Pink or purple pen. I'm going to use orange and purple so that you can see it clearly. So I'm going to give you a process that I use, and I use this in sessions and I use this in workshops. There are different ways to do it. I did it the other day slightly differently in a workshop when I was addressing thoughts. It was different, but this time I'm giving you a different one. So you can put yourself in the middle. It's you. See, with me, with drawing, you have to use your imagination. Okay, so that's me. You have to use your imagination. This is the best I can do. Art was not my favorite subject, and my art teacher would be really happy right now because I didn't pay attention in art class. So draw a circle, put yourself in it. One of the things to do is to kind of just think through what's my story. So let me use, I'm going to use the story that I used earlier about living in a certain area where the health outcomes for people in that area is not great. So it's safe to say there's social inequalities. What do I mean by that? That there are people in that area, there are people who don't have the same opportunities that other people will have. There is the street looks different. The types of shops that are there is different. The jobs that the people do in those areas is different. So I'm gonna say poverty. I'm gonna call the big P word. Poverty. There are probably children in that community who don't have money or food. Sometimes, they might go to the food bank, might use the food bank a lot. If your story is different, you just use your story. You might be different. You grew up in the next part of town. But I'm just using this example of how what we experience can influence the story. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of drawing arrows off my circle. Then there is the teacher who told you that you wouldn't amount to anything. Teachers are great, by the way. Most of my siblings are teachers, so this is not anything against teachers. Wouldn't amount to anything. Then there is bullying at school, and it might not be severe. It might just be laughing at your trainers because it's not the latest trainers. It might be you can't wear name brand clothes. Could be anything, your jumper is not like everybody else, your trainers isn't like everybody else, those things that come as a result of poverty. So that's what my circle is looking like. And then I want to think of two more. Tell me in the chat what two more could be. There might be abuse, maybe not in your home, but you might hear the neighbors next door having it out every night. You might live in a house where the walls are thin and you can hear everything the neighbors say and they can hear what you say. Right? Taxes, I'm going to use that one. Taxes don't go to your area at certain times. And job opportunities. Sometimes, one or more parents were unemployed. So there's unemployment. Life was, you can get a picture for this person these of what life. Yeah. So each one of these things would generate a story about self. Each one of these would generate a story about self that would cause a mindset and a way of thinking about self that would either cause you to grow or keep you stuck. And so what I'm saying about if you master your thoughts, you'll control your life, is you would need to challenge each story. You would need to challenge each story. So let me use one. This is going on longer than we normally go on, but that question, Roxanne, your question, if you're still here, really has me thinking. So let's look at one. I'm going to use my green pen so you can see the difference. Oh, absolutely. Substance misuse. How could I forget that one? Substance misuse would most likely be present. Maybe in the family. Substance misuse. So if we look at this now, so there's several things going on for one person. So let me do one set of stories. So let's use poverty, for example, not having enough and your mom have to go to the food bank when you were 10 and get food. got her voucher. She went to the food bank because mothers are awesome and we try to solve problems. So go to the food bank. What story would somebody tell themselves around having to get food from other people from the food bank? Yeah, it would be story of worth. There would be stories around worth. It could impact self-esteem. It would be grounded around that. Impact worth and self-esteem. It would be not good enough. There'll be lots of all or nothing thinking. This is just us. And the big one starts with S. Shame. There'll be a lot of shame. Shame is at the root of most negative emotions. So you see how many things I have just on the food bank. And I mean, there probably would be many, many more. You do this exercise for yourself. We could have ones on the, where my finger going? On the social inequalities, we could have on the substance misuse, we could have on the abuse. There'd be many that you need to challenge yourself. Now, this might look like a daunting task. It's not as daunting as you think, because once you start to challenge the story on the worth and self-esteem, on the poverty side, then you're well on your way. So let me use one. So say, for example, when you're doing this bit, use a pencil. My pencil don't have a point, but use a pencil, right? Use a pencil to write the story. So self-esteem. I am not good enough because my mother had to go to the food bank. I am less than. Let me use that one. I am not as good as. I am not as good as so and so. We had to go to the food bank. They eat fish and chips. So you're comparing. You're comparing. So what we would do is challenge this thought around self, around going to the food bank, the story that you tell yourself around going to the food bank. How could you change that story? You know, how could you change that story to make it something else? It wouldn't change the fact that you went to the food bank. What it would do is help you to normalize and to tell yourself truth about going to the food bank. So what would be the truth? Does that mean if people who go to the food bank is not good enough? That's not true. That's not true at all. Lots of different people hit hard time and can go to the food bank. So that's one thing. That's not true. Now we're normalizing it. Different people go to the food bank at different times. You can even go read that in the newspaper. It's all over. You can find it. Different people lose their jobs and they have to go to the food bank from time to time. So you normalize it as you're telling yourself the truth. And what that does, it begins to change how you view yourself because of going to the food bank. Because if other people go, then you realize that it wasn't just your family and it doesn't make you not good enough. That makes sense. I hope that's making sense. And I hope when you watch this, please let me know in the comment section or send me an email just to let me know how you received this today. We spent longer than we normally do because I really wanted to go deeper. The question really sent me deeper, which was really good. So it's not true that we're not good enough. People who go to the food bank isn't good enough. It's not true that it is true that different people go all the time, and it's not tied to you how much you're worth because you go. All right. So when those thoughts come up and you start to feel bad about yourself, when you see Johnny who used to have fish and chips, and you remember that memory comes that you used to go to the food bank, then you can think, you know what, Joanna, lots of people go. My family wasn't the only one. At that period in our lives, it really helps us. I can't imagine how difficult it was for my mom to have to do that. And she had to carry the bags past her friends, but she solved the problem for us. Our family ate that night. Yeah, my benefits may be late or in between jobs with dependent children. Absolutely. There are many different reasons why people go. And I think this serves an amazing purpose. So if you're watching this and you can, whenever you go to the supermarket, pick up something extra and put it in that basket. I do that all the time. Whatever I'm going to get, I always think, let me go get something extra to put in that basket at the end of the door so that the food bank can stay full. I always do that. So if you're going to the shop and you have it, do that, please, because there are people like him. Yeah. So Hope that makes sense for you. I really wish that it'd be nice if this was an hour workshop where I could dive deeper into this and really work with you, take you into room and talk to you and hear how this is dropping for you. But you can send me an email and ask any questions and let me know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about it. All right. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday when we continue to share these amazing lives. Right. On Monday, I'm talking about, does facing your fear help you to overcome it? Really, does it? I'm going to talk about that on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye.